Economic Survey 2024-25. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tabled Economic Survey 24-25 on January 31, 2025 in Parliament. Some of the key highlights are State of the economy. The economic survey has estimated real GDP growth between 6.3% and 6.8% in 2025, and in 2024-25 the India's real GDP is estimated to grow by 6.4%. To become a developed nation by 2047, India would require sustained economic growth of around 8% every year for at least a decade. Sustained investments, improvement in consumer confidence, and pickup in corporate wages will be important for supporting growth. Rural demand and anticipated decrease in food inflation is expected to provide an upside to near-term growth. Risks to growth include possible commodity price shocks and elevated trade and geopolitical uncertainties. To reinforce medium-term growth potential, India will need to improve its global competitiveness through structural reforms and deregulation. Retail inflation decreased from 5.4% in 23-24 to 4.9% in 24-25, April to December. This has been driven by a reduction in input prices. India's food inflation has remained firm, which has not been in line with global trends of stable or declining food inflation. Food inflation increased from 7.5 in 23-24 to 8.4%, primarily driven by commodities such as vegetables and pulses. This can be attributed to supply chain disruptions and reduced harvest of some food items. Vegetables are more susceptible to uneven weather compared to food grains. Certain measures to ensure long-term price stability include developing climate-resilient crop varieties, training farmers on best practices and use high-yield and disease-resistant seeds, and robust data collection and analysis to monitor prices and stocks. The survey noted that declining prices of imported commodities is favorable for India's domestic inflation. India's current account deficit in the second quarter of 24-25 was 1.2% of GDP as compared to 1.3% of GDP in the corresponding quarter of 23-24. The recent increase in current account deficit can be attributed to an increase in merchandise trade deficit. The deficit increased to $75 billion in second quarter from $65 billion in the corresponding quarter. This was cushioned by an increase in net services receipts and private transfers. The survey noted that India's current account deficit has been relatively contained compared to other countries such as Brazil and Australia. To remain competitive and improve participation in global supply chains, India must continue to reduce trade costs and improve export competitiveness. Public finances. The central government's indicators of fiscal discipline have progressively improved. The share of capital expenditure of the central government has improved since 2020-21 and was 21% in 23-24. The survey noted that fiscal management in the last 4 years was kept the overall savings investment gap from widening. This has ensured a comfortable financing of the current account deficit despite moderation household savings. Agriculture sector recorded an annual average growth rate of 5% between 2017 and 22-23. This sector grew at 3.5% in the second quarter. Sustained growth in the sector has been supported by remunerative prices, improved access to institutional credit, enhancement in productivity, and crop diversification. Agricultural income has increased by 5.2% annually over past decade as compared to 6.2% for non-agricultural income. Crop yields in India are considerably lower compared to other countries. This highlights the need for improvements in productivity. Crop productivity is linked to on-farm and post-harvest inputs, including access to quality seeds, better irrigation facilities, and improvements in soil health. The increasing significance of allied sectors such as animal husbandry, dairying, fisheries underscores the importance of diversification in the sector. By tapping into these sectors, farmers can create additional revenue streams that can act as buffers against volatility in traditional crop production. Challenges for the sector include climate change and water scarcity. Industrial sector grew by 6.2% in 24-25, driven by robust growth in the electricity and construction sectors. Industrial growth declined to 3.6% in the second quarter due to factors such as slowdown in manufacturing exports due to intensified trade competition and industrial policies of major trading nations, and unprecedented levels of monsoon which slow down activities such as mining and construction. Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu account for 43% of industrial gross state value added. On the other hand, six northeastern states, excluding Sikkim and Assam, account for only 7.7% of the industrial gross value added. Survey noted that there is a need to focus on industrial strategies for unique geographies like northeastern region. States should make it easier to start and grow business operations. India lags in research and development with a significant gap across major sectors. Current expenditure on R&D is 0.64% of GDP, which is insufficient and lower than many countries. The survey recommended fostering industry academia collaboration, enhancing private sector participation, and prioritizing applied research. The services sector has grown at an average rate of 8.3% between 22-23 and 24-25. Its contribution to total gross value added has increased from 51% in 2013-14 to 55% in 24-25. So far in 24-25, the services sector has supported GDP growth when manufacturing has been affected by slowing global merchandise trade. The survey noted that there is a need for appropriate skilling of the labor force for sectoral growth. For this, efforts are needed at all tiers of government, private sector, and skilling institutions. In addition, there is a need to review and amend complicated procedures, regulations, and rules at the grassroots level that hinder the growth of the sector. India's current infrastructure spending needs to be increased to meet developmental goals. Capital expenditure by the central government on major infrastructure sectors has increased at a rate of 39% from 2019-20 to 23-24. Despite the measures taken by the central government along with the states and public sector undertakings, there is a there is still a significant unmet demand for infrastructure development. This needs to be filled with innovative modes of financing and greater public participation. There is a need to accelerate infrastructure investment over the next 20 years to sustain a high growth rate. These cannot be met by public sector alone as there are binding budget constraints to two different tiers of government. Private participation should accelerate in program and project planning, financing, construction, maintenance, and monetization. Employment: the annual unemployment rate for individuals aged 15 and above has declined from 6% in 2017-18 to 3.2% in 23-24. This recovery has been accompanied by an increase in labor force participation rate and worker to population ratio. The proportion of self-employed workers increased from 52% to 58%, reflecting growing entrepreneurial activity and preference for flexible working conditions. However, the share of workers in regular salaried jobs has decreased from 23 to 22%. Increasing flexibility in the labor market will create an enabling environment for businesses to grow. India's labor regulations impose extensive compliance requirements on businesses. Micromanaging regulations create unnecessary administrative burdens that hinder business growth. There is a need to focus on improving learning outcomes and employability. Improvement may be needed at the school level for basic language, mathematics, and science proficiency, the higher education level by incorporating skills for new age technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. There is a tendency for Indian firms to remain small. By doing so, they lose access to institutional capital, skilled talent, and technology infusion. The reason for not scaling up is to remain outside the regulatory radar and steer clear of labor and safety laws. The survey noted that deregulation is critical for MSMEs rather than large enterprises, as the latter usually finds a way around compliance. Regulations hurt the ability of businesses to start and grow over time and increase cost of operational decisions. Indian firms cannot adhere to applicable regulations without hindering growth, investments, and job creation. For instance, exporting firms should have the flexibility to deploy more labor hours in months. With surge in orders, faster economic growth would need central and state governments to implement reforms that allow small and medium enterprises to operate efficiently. Areas for deregulation include land, labor, transport, and logistics. Budget Union Budget 25-26 analysis. Budget highlights expenditure. The government is estimated to spend 50 lakh crore in 25-26, 7.4% higher than the revised estimates. Interest payments account for 25% of the total expenditure and 37% of revenue receipts. Interest payment account for 25% and 37% of revenue receipts. The receipts other than borrowings in 25-26 are estimated to be 34 lakh crore, about 11% higher than the revised estimates of 24-25. Tax revenue, which forms the major part of the receipt, is also expected to increase by 11% over the revised estimate for 24-25. The government has estimated a nominal GDP growth rate of 10.1% in 25-26. Real growth plus inflation. Revenue deficit in 25-26 is targeted at 1.5% of GDP. This is lower than the revised estimate of 1.9% in 24-25. Fiscal deficit in 25-26 is targeted 4.4% of GDP, lower than the revised estimate of 4.8% of GDP. The central government aims to reduce its outstanding liabilities to 50% of GDP by March 31. In 2025-26, outstanding liabilities are estimated to be 56.1% of the GDP. The central government aims to reduce its outstanding liabilities to around 50% of GDP by March 2031. 25-26 current outstanding liabilities are estimated to be 56.1%. Expenditure, receipts, GDP deficits, and debt. Main tax proposals: changes in income tax regime. Slabs have under the new regime have been modified. The proposed tax structure as shown in table 1: annual income up to 12 lakh will receive 100% rebate on the taxable income. Earlier, this applied only to income up to 7 lakhs. The old tax regime remains unchanged. So nil up to 4 lakh, 5% up from 4 to 8, 10% from 8 to 12, 15% from 12 to 16, 20% from 16 to 20, and 25% 20 to 24. And above 24 is 30%. The time limit to file updated returns for an assessment year is increased from 2 to 4 years, with a penalty of 60 to 70% of the income tax and interest payable for third and fourth year respectively. Increase in limits for TDS and TCS. The annual limit for TDS on rent will be 6 lakh rupees. The threshold for TCS on remittances has increased from 7 lakh rupees to 10 lakh. TCS will not be levied on remittances for education up to the amount of loan taken for a specified financial institution. The minimum threshold for TDS or TCS has also been increased for interest and dividends. Custom duty has been reduced on some items, but agriculture, infrastructure and development cess has been introduced. AIDC cess has been introduced. The overall tax has remained similar to earlier levels. However, there has been a shift from customs duty to cess, resulting in lower proportion to be shared with states. Items include solar cells and motor vehicles. Increase in limits for TDS and TCS. The annual limit for TDS on rent will be 6 lakh rupees. Threshold for TCS on remittances has increased from 7 to 10 lakh rupees. TCS will not be levied on remittances for education up to amount of loan taken for specified financial institution. Minimum threshold for TDS or TCS has also been increased for interest and dividends. Income tax exemption for startups. Startups incorporated up to April 1, 2025 can currently avail income tax exemption for 3 consecutive years during the first 10 years of operation. This period has been extended to cover startups incorporated up to April 1, 2030. IFSC. For several tax exemptions, commencement date of operations of an IFSC unit has been extended to March 31, 2030. Tax exemptions have been granted or extended for some activities such as transfer of equity of ship leasing units. NGOs. Tax exemption under Section 12 is valid for 5 years and requires renewal after that. Validity has been increased to 10 years for institutions with income up to 5 crore rupees in each of the previous 2 years. Finance policy highlights. Finance and economy FDI limit has for insurance sector has been increased from 74 to 100% for companies which invest their entire premium in India. A new income tax bill will be introduced. Governance. A high-level committee for regulatory reforms will be set up for reviewing all non-financial sector regulations, certifications, licenses and permissions. The committee will make recommendations within a year. A mechanism will be set up under Fiscal Stability and Development Council to evaluate the impact of current financial regulations. It will formulate a stable framework for development of the financial sector and investment friendliness index of states will be launched in 2025. Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0 will be introduced to decriminalize over 100 provisions across multiple laws. To improve credit access, credit guarantee cover will be increased from 5 crore to 10 crore for micro small enterprises, from 10 crore to 20 crore for startups, from 20 crore up to 20 crore for exporter MSMEs. Investment and turnover limits for MSMEs will be 2.5 and 2 times respectively. For micro enterprises registered on Udyam portal, 10 lakh credit cards with credit limit of 5 lakhs will be provided within first year of the scheme. Infrastructure. Each infrastructure related ministry will formulate a 3-year pipeline of projects that can be implemented in a PPP mode. A second asset monetization plan will be launched for 25-30 National Geospatial Mission will be started to modernize land records and urban planning. India Post will be transferred as a large public logistics organization and will be repositioned to provide several services in rural areas. A modified Udan scheme will be launched to improve connectivity to 120 new destinations and carry 4 crore passengers in the next 10 years. Maritime Development Board with a corpus of 25,000 crore will be set up with 49% contribution by the government. Broadband connectivity will be provided to all government secondary schools and primary healthcare centers in rural areas. Energy additional borrowings of 0.05% of GSDP will be allowed to states based on electricity distribution reforms and augmenting intra-state transmission capacity. Atomic Energy Act and Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act will be amended to allow private sector partnerships for development of nuclear energy. A nuclear energy mission will be set up, launched for the development of small modular reactors with an outlay of 20,000 crores. Urban and Rural Development Urban Challenge Fund of 1 lakh rupees 1 lakh crore rupees will be set up to implement projects for the development of cities. A scheme worth 15,000 crore will be established to complete the construction of 1 lakh housing units in stressed projects. Agriculture. The central government will launch a 6-year mission to achieve self-reliance in pulses. Central agencies will procure 3 pulses as much offered from farmers on the next 4 years. In addition, programs will be launched for availability of high-yielding variety of seeds and increasing cotton productivity. Prime Minister Dhanya Dhanya Krishi Yojana will be implemented to improve crop productivity and crop diversification in 100 low productivity districts. Loan limit under the modified interest subvention scheme will be increased from 3 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees for loans availed through the Kisan Credit Card. Labor and Employment PM Swanidhi scheme to provide affordable credit to street vendors will be revamped to provide UPI linked credit cards with 30,000 limit, enhanced bank loan and capacity building support. Gig workers will be provided to access healthcare under Ayushman Bharat. A scheme will be launched to provide loans up to 2 crore rupees to 5 lakh women, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, first time entrepreneurs. Another scheme for socio-economic upliftment of urban workers will be implemented to help improve incomes. In the next year, 10,000 additional seats will be added in medical colleges and hospitals with the goal of adding 75,000 in the next 5 years. Additional infrastructure will be created in 5 IITs started after 2014 to facilitate education for 6,500 more students. Under the Prime Minister Research Fellowship Scheme, 10,000 fellowships will be provided for technological research in IITs and IISc. Budget estimates of 25-26 as compared to revised estimates for 24-25 total expenditure. The government is estimated to spend 50 lakh crore in 25-26. This is an increase of 7.4% over the revised estimate. Revenue expenditure is estimated to increase by 6.7% and capital expenditure by 10% over the revised estimate of 24-25. Allocation towards major schemes MGNREGS and PM Kisan is same as the revised estimates of 24-25. Expenditure on subsidies is estimated to be similar on the revised estimate of 24-25. Establishment expenditure, which includes pension and salary, is estimated to increase by 3% over the revised estimate of the previous year. Total government receipts excluding borrowings are estimated to be 34.96 lakh crore, 11% higher than the revised estimate. The gap between these receipts and expenditure will be plugged by borrowings budgeted to be 15.68 lakh crore, roughly the same as the revised estimate of 24-25. Transfer to states. The central government will transfer 25 lakh crore to states in 25-26, an increase of 12.5% over the revised estimate of 24-25. Transfer to states include tax devolution of 14 lakh crore and grants worth 11 lakh crore. Within this, 1,50,000 crore have been allocated for capital expenditure loans. Revenue deficit is targeted at 1.5% of GDP, lower than the revised estimate of 24-25, 1.9% of GDP. Fiscal deficit is targeted at 4.4% of GDP, lower than revised estimate 4.8% of GDP. The lower fiscal deficit is on account of higher growth in receipts at 11.1% as compared to expenditure growth of 7.4%. The revenue expenditure revised was 36 lakh crore previous year. Budgeted expenditure is 39 lakh crore this time, and 6.7%. Capital expenditure 10.18, 11.21. And again, capital outlay of 8.47, 8.95, 1.7, 2.25. Total expenditure 47.16, 50.65. Revenue receipts 30, 34. Capital receipts 59, 76. Recoveries of loans is 26. We are expecting 29 this time, and 33. We are expecting 47 this time. Revenue deficit 6 lakh crore, 5 lakh crore. Percentage of GDP 1.9, 1.5. Revenue deficit we are targeting 1.5% of GDP, and fiscal deficit 4.8, 4.4, and primary deficit 1.3 and 0.8% of GDP. Expenditure which brings a change to government's asset or liabilities, such as construction of roads or recovery of loans, is capital expenditure, and all other expenditures expenses are revenue expenditure, such as payment of salaries or interest payments. 25-26 capital expenditure is expected to increase by 10% over the revised estimates of 24-25. Revenue expenditure is expected to increase by 6.7% over the revised estimates of 24-25. Disinvestment is the government selling its stake in public sector undertakings. In 24-25, government is estimated to meet 66% of its disinvestment target. The disinvestment target for 25-26 is 47,000 crore, lower than the budget target of 24-25, that is 50,000 crore. These investment targets have reduced for the fifth consecutive year and have not achieved in any of these years. Receipt highlights. Receipts including borrowings have been estimated at 34 lakh crore, an increase of 11% over the revised estimates of 24-25. This is mainly on account of centers net tax revenue growing by 11%. Gross tax revenue is budgeted to increase by 10.8% in 24-25-26 over the revised estimates for 24-25. This is greater than estimated growth in nominal GDP of 10.1% in 25-26. Corporation tax and income tax for 25-26 are expected to grow over the revised estimates of 24-25 by about 10.4 and 14.4% respectively. GST revenue for 25-26 is budgeted to increase by 10.9% over the revised estimates of 24-25. Devolution to states from center tax revenue is estimated to be 14 lakh crore 25-26, an increase of 10.5% over the revised estimates of 24-25. In 24-25, devolution to states is estimated to be higher by 39,000 crore from the initial budget estimate of 12 lakh crore. Net tax revenue excluding state share in taxes is estimated to be 28 lakh crore in 25-26, which is about 11% higher than the revised estimate for 24-25. As per revised estimates for 24-25, net tax revenue is expected to reduce marginally by 1% from the budget estimates from that year. Non-tax revenue consists mainly of uh, interest receipts on loans given by the center, dividend, license fees, tolls, and charges for the government services. It is estimated at 5.83 lakh crore in 25-26 and 9.8% higher than the revised estimate for 24-25. Dividend is estimated to form 55.7% of the total budgeted non-tax receipts for 25-26. Capital receipts excluding borrowings are targeted at 76,000 crore, an increase of 28.8% over the revised estimates for 24-25. The revised estimates for 24-25 are 24.4% lower than the budgeted amount for that year. Lower receipts are estimated due to underachievement of disinvestment targets. Gross revenue was 38 lakh crore, budgeted is 42 lakh crore. Gross tax revenue. So total tax receipts including borrowing, total tax receipts without borrowings is C plus D plus E, 34.96 lakh crore, 31.46 पहले था. Okay, so I think 42 minus gross tax revenue, of which corporation tax is 10.82 lakh crore, taxes on income is 14.38, goods and services tax it's 11.78, customs is 2.4, union excise duties is 3.17, devolution to tax is 14.22 lakh crores, center's net tax revenue is 28.37. Non-tax revenue is 5.383, of which interest receipts is 47, dividend is 3.25, and other non-tax revenue is 2.05. Capital receipts 76, of which disinvestment is 47. Receipts total 28 plus 230 C D, 28 plus 5 634, so 34.96. Borrowings is 50 lakh crore. Total receipts including borrowings will be 50.65 lakh crore. Indirect taxes, total indirect taxes collections are estimated to be 17 lakh crore in 25-26. Of this, government has estimated to raise 11 lakh crore from GST, 11.78 lakh crore from GST. Out of total GST revenue, 86% is expected to come from CGST and 14% from GST compensation cess. 86% CGST and 14% from GST compensation cess. Corporation tax, the collection from taxes on companies is expected to increase by 10.4% in 24-25. Taxes on income are expected to increase by 14.4% in 25-26. The revised estimate for 24-25 is 5.9% higher than the budget for the year, 11.87 lakh crore. The government is expected to forego direct tax revenue of about 1 lakh crore as a result of the new tax proposals announced in 25-26 budget. Non-tax receipts in 25-26, non-tax revenue is expected to increase by 9.8% over the revised estimates for 24-25. Non-tax revenue is estimated to be 3% lower than the budgeted in 24-25. This is mainly on account of reduction in the revised estimates for interest receipts. Toll on usage of roads and bridges is budgeted at 36,000 crore for 25-26, which is 44% higher than the revised estimate of 24-25. Expenditure highlights: total expenditure in 25-26 is expected to be 50.65 lakh crore, which is an increase of 7.4% over the revised estimate of 24-25. Of this, 16.21 lakh crore is proposed to be spent on central sector schemes, 70.2% increase, and 5.41 lakh crore is proposed to be spent on centrally sponsored schemes. According to the revised estimates of 24-25, government expenditure on centrally sponsored schemes is estimated to be lower by 90,000 crore over the budget estimates of that year. This is primarily due to reduction in Jal Shakti Jeevan Mission and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. The government has estimated to spend 2.76 lakh crore on pensions, which is 6.6% higher than the revised estimate of 24-25. In addition, expenditure on interest payments in 24-25 25-26 is estimated to be 12 lakh crore, which is 25% of the government total expenditure. In 25-26, interest payments are expected to increase by 12% as compared to the revised estimates of 24-25. Other grants, loans, and transfers 3 lakh crore include 1,50,000 crore as special loans to states for capital expenditure. So, central expenditure is 40 lakh crore budgeted. Uh, in this, we have 8 lakh crore, 8.6 lakh crore is established expenditure, central sector scheme 16 lakh crore, 15 other expenditure 15 lakh crore, of which interest payments is 12.76 lakh crore. Centrally sponsored schemes and other transfer 10.49 lakh crore, centrally sponsored schemes 5.41 lakh crore, finance commission grants of which rural per local bodies 48,000 crore, 26,000 crore, 26,000 crore disaster management grant, post revolution revenue deficit grants 13,000 crore, and other grants of which capex loans to states is 1,50,000 crore, 1,50,000 crore. So total expenditure is 50 lakh crore. Central expenditure is 40 lakh crore, centrally sponsored schemes and other transfers is 10.49 lakh crore. Expenditure by ministries in 25-26, top 13 ministries in terms of allocation account for 53% of the total expenditure. Of these, Ministry of Defence has the highest allocation at 6.81 lakh crore, accounting for 13.4% of the total budgeted expenditure of the central government. Other ministries with higher allocations include road transport and budgeted road transport and highways 5.7% of total expenditure, railways 5%, consumer affairs, food and public distribution 4.3%. Defense is 6.81 lakh crore, road transport and highways is 2.87 lakh crore. Railways is 2.55 lakh crore, Home Affairs is 2.33, Consumer Affairs is 2.15, Rural Development is 1.9, Chemical Fertilizers 1.61, Agriculture is 1.37, Education is 1.28, Communications is 1.08, Health and Family Welfare is 99,000 crore and Jal Shakti is 99,000. Housing and Urban Affairs is 96,000 crore. Total expenditure is 50 lakh crore. Ministry of Defence allocation is estimated to increase by 40,000 crore in 25-26 over the revised estimate of 24-25. The allocation towards capital outlay for defence services is estimated to be 1,80,000 crore, 12% higher than the revised estimates. Ministry of Jal Shakti allocation increased by 47,000 crore to 99,000 crore in 25-26. The revised estimate was 51,000 crore, compared to the budgeted for 98,000 crore. Underspending is mainly due to Jal Jeevan Mission. Ministry of Rural Development allocation towards rural development increased by 14,000 crore to 1,90,000 crore. This is primarily due to increased allocation towards Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Rural, which underspent the budget in 24-25, and National Rural Livelihoods Mission. Ministry of Communication allocation towards communication decreased by 42,000 crore. This is primarily due to lower allocation towards capital infusion in BSNL. In 25-26, total expenditure on subsidies is estimated to be 4.26 lakh crore, similar to the revised estimates of 24-25. Food subsidy estimated at 2.03 lakh crore and fertilizer subsidy at 1.67 lakh crore. Together constitute 87% of the total subsidy bill. LPG subsidy constitute 3% of the total subsidy bill. So food subsidy is 2.03 lakh crore, fertilizer is 1.67 lakh crore, interest subsidy is 27, LPG is 12,000 crore, and other subsidies 14,000 crore. Total subsidies 4.26 lakh crore. Expenditure on major schemes: MGNREGS is 86,000, Jal Jeevan Mission is 67,000, PM Kisan is 63,000, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Rural is 54,000, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is 41,000, National Health Mission is 37,000, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is 23,000, Modified Interest Subvention Scheme is 22,000, Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2 is 21,000, New Employment Generation Scheme is 20,000. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana is 20,000, National Livelihoods Mission Ajivika is 19,000, Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana is 19,000. MGNREGS has the highest allocation in 25-26 as 86,000. This amount is same for the revised estimate for 24-25. The allocation for PM Kisan is 63,500 is also unchanged. Together, the rural and urban components of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana have an allocation of 678,000 crore, an increase of 64% over the revised estimate. In 24-25, expenditure for the scheme is expected to be lower by 44% as compared to the budget estimate. Jal Jeevan Mission has an allocation of 67,000. In 24-25, revised estimate of 22,000 crore is significantly lower than the budget estimate of 70,000 crore. New schemes: 41,000 crore has been allocated to the Department of Economic Affairs for new schemes. Details not available. 24-25, this head has a budget of 62,000 crore, but only 9,000 crore is estimated to be spent. Loans to state for capital expenditure: Center has budgeted 1,50,000 crore for special interest free loans to states for capital expenditure. The same amount was budgeted in 24-25, which has been reduced to 1,25,000 crore in the revised estimates. Expenditure on scheduled caste and scheduled tribes sub-plans and schemes for the welfare of women, children in northeastern region. Programs for the welfare of women and children have been allocated 5.65 lakh crore in 25-26, an increase of 18% over the revised estimates of 24-25. These allocations include programs being implemented across all ministries. Welfare of women 4.49 lakh crore, welfare of children 1.16 lakh crore, scheduled caste 1.168 lakh crore, and scheduled tribes 1.29 lakh crore. Northeastern region 1.05 lakh crore. Allocation towards welfare of women is estimated to increase due to increased allocation towards Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Under the Awas Yojana, the female head of the family must be the co-owner or co-owner of the house. Allocation towards welfare of children is estimated to increase due to higher allocation towards school education under the Samak Shiksha and PM Shri scheme. Allocation for scheduled caste is estimated to higher due to increased allocation under the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Targets. FRBM Act 2003 requires central government to progressively reduce its outstanding debt, revenue deficit and fiscal deficit, and to give 3-year rolling targets for these. Note, medium-term fiscal policy statement has not provided rolling targets for the budget deficit since 2021-22. Fiscal deficit is an indicator of borrowings by the government for financing its expenditure. The estimated fiscal deficit is 4.4% of GDP. Revenue deficit is the excess of revenue expenditure over revenue deficits. Such deficit implies that government needs to borrow funds to meet the recurring expenses which may not provide future returns. The estimated revenue deficit is 1.5% of GDP. This is lower than revised estimates of 1.9% of GDP. Revenue receipts are estimated to increase by 10.8% in 25-26, while the revenue expenditure is estimated to increase by 6.7%. Growth in revenue receipts is driven by income tax, GST, and corporation tax, while which are estimated to grow by 14%, 10.9%, and 10.4% respectively. Primary deficit is the fiscal deficit less interest payments. Primary deficit is the fiscal deficit less interest payments. It is estimated to be 0.8% of GDP in 25-26. So fiscal deficit is 4.4%. It came down from 4.8%, 5.6%. Revenue deficit is 2.6, 1.9, 1.5, and primary deficit is 2.0, 1.3, and 0.8%. Fiscal deficit budgeted versus actual as percentage of GDP has been continuously decreasing actual, and revenue deficit is also continuously decreasing. Outstanding liabilities is the accumulation of borrowings over the years. A higher debt implies that government has a higher loan repayment obligation over the years. Center's outstanding liabilities are estimated to be 56.1% of GDP. Outstanding liabilities has declined from 52% of GDP to 49% of GDP in 2018-19. From 2019-20 onwards, outstanding liabilities increased, reaching a high of 61% of GDP in 2020-21 and have moderated thereafter. Government aims to reduce the outstanding liabilities to around 50% of GDP by March 31. Interest payments as a percent of revenue receipts increased from 37% to 40%. 2%, it is estimated to be 37% of revenue receipts in 25-26. Interest payments as a percentage of revenue receipt 42% together 2021 May, currently it is 37%. Outstanding liabilities as a percentage of GDP it was 61%, currently it is 56%. इसको टारगेट कर रहे हैं to aims to around 50% by March 31. Next is highlights of the President's Address 2025. The President of India, Ms. Draupadi Murmu, addressed a joint sitting of both Houses of Parliament on January 31, 2025. She outlined the major policy achievement and objectives of the government in her address. Key highlights of the address issue: government has repealed more than 1500 obsolete laws, over 40,000 regulations have been simplified or reduced, and 3,500 provisions have been decriminalized. In the past 2 years, government has provided 10 lakh permanent government jobs. 8th pay commission has been constituted. It will substantially increase salary for government employees in the coming years. Under the unified pension scheme, 50% assured pension will be provided to lakhs of employees. Tax related processes have been simplified. Faceless assessment is increasing transparency and reducing tax disputes. Under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, 41,000 crore has been disbursed to crores of farmers in the recent months. MSPs for Kharif and Rabi crops have increased over the past decade. Procurement of rice, wheat, pulses, oilseeds, and coarse grains have tripled. In 23-24, India achieved a record production of 332 million tons of food grains. India is now the largest producer of milk, pulses, and spices. Agricultural Infrastructure Fund scheme has been expanded to strengthen agricultural infrastructure to enhance oilseed production and achieve self-reliance in edible oils. National Mission on Oilseeds has been approved. The loan limit under the Mudra scheme has been increased from 10 lakh to 20 lakh. India has now 1.5 lakh startups. Credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs and e-commerce export hubs will promote industries. 28,000 crore will be invested to establish 12 industrial nodes and build 100 industrial parks near cities across the country. Initiatives like Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Startup India, and Stand Up India and Digital India have created numerous employment opportunities for the youth. More than 50% of the world's real-time digital transactions now take place in India. Education and Sports PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme has been introduced to provide financial assistance to meritorious students for higher education. 1 crore youth will be given internship opportunities in the top 500 companies. To promote research in educational institutions, National Research Foundation has been established with an outlay of 50,000 crore. One Nation One Subscription scheme has been introduced to strengthen ease of doing research. It offers free access to international research material. Khelo India Science Scheme, the Target Olympic Podium Scheme, and National Sports University are contributing to creating world-class sports ecosystem to enhance skills and create new opportunities for the youth. Government has approved 2 lakh crore rupees package. Health, maternal and infant mortality rates have improved. Cases of TB has been reduced. Under Ayushman Bharat, 6 crore senior citizens over 70 years have above receive free health insurance cover of 5 lakh annually. Jan Aushadhi Kendras offering medications at 80% concessional rates have led to savings of over 30,000 crore. 1,75,000 Ayushman Arogya Mandirs have been established across the country to ensure better healthcare services reach citizens. Due to rising number of cancer patients and high cost of treatment, several cancer drugs have been exempted from custom duty. 75,000 new seats in the medical colleges will be created over the next 5 years. Provision of toilets, water connections, and rations have led to 25 crore people overcoming poverty. PM Suraj Yojana has been expanded to provide easy loans to the backward sections of society and sanitation workers. Over 1 crore Divyang ID cards have been issued to issue better access of government schemes to differently abled individuals. The Aspirational Districts program will improve health, agriculture, nutrition, and education in the country's most backward areas. The Dharti Aba Tribal Village Utkarsh campaign, Dharti Aba Tribal Village Utkarsh campaign, has been launched with an outlay of 80,000 crore to uplift 5 crore people from tribal communities. Nearly 1.25 lakh tribal children are receiving quality education at the more than 470 Eklavya model residential schools. Women empowerment under the National Rural Livelihoods Mission. More than 91 lakhs self-help groups are being empowered, connecting 10 crore women. Krishi Sakhis are promoting natural farming. Pashu Sakhis are strengthening all livestock. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has been extended to provide homes to 3 crore more families. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana 4 will provide road connectivity to 25,000 habitations. Under the Swamitva scheme, 2 crore property cards have been issued. Prime PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan has accelerated pace of project completion. The country's airline companies have placed orders for more than 1,700 new aircraft. Government is expanding airports to operate this fleet. Over the past decade, number of airports in the country has doubled. Government plans to deploy 52,000 electric buses in the country at an estimated cost of 8,000 crore rupees to provide clean urban transportation. India's metro network covers more than 1,000 kilometers and is third largest in the world. Ongoing river linking projects will address irrigation and drinking water needs in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. Government has taken several steps to achieving the target of 55,500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel energy capacity by 2030. Target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy capacity by 2030. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Rooftop solar systems are being installed at the cost of 75,000 crore. National Green Hydrogen Mission will have an investment of 8 lakh crore and generate 1.6 lakh jobs. Government has introduced vehicle scrappage policy to ensure scientific disposal of old vehicles, and a venture capital fund of 1,000 crore has been launched to boost the space sector. India has risen to second place in QS World Future Skills Index. Its rank in the Global Innovation Index has improved from 76 to 39. 10,000 crore is being invested to foster innovation in science technology under the Vigyan Dhara Yojana, and Bio E3 policy has been introduced to boost biomanufacturing. Bioeconomy will focus on efficient use of natural resources. Quantum Mission aims to position India as a leading nations in the field of frontier technology. National AI Mission has elevated India's contribution to the field of artificial intelligence. Self-reliance in defense is being strengthened by establishing defense industrial corridor and promoting defense startups. Road and tunnel connecting border areas are enhancing defense capabilities. The number of districts affected by the left-wing extremism has reduced from 26 to 838. Comprehensive development plan is being created for eastern states. This will create new employment opportunities. So that's all. See you in the next one.